Yo, what's up, Broncos country? How's it going tonight, guys? Tonight we don't have Muhammad. He's actually out of town. He's got some personal matters to attend to. So we do have Gage for the full hour tonight. This should be a really exciting show. So Gage, thank you for coming back on, man, covering for Muhammad. Really appreciate it. How's your week been, man?
It's been a great week, man. Been out at training camp for most of the days this week. Been able to watch the Broncos in action. We've learned quite a bit. So we're going to be breaking all of that down and more in today's video. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, same, man. I mean, I ain't really get a chance to go this year because I tried to get tickets, but man, they went so fast this year it was like impossible to get any. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of freaking news coming out of Broncos camp this week, man, and we're gonna go over everything: injuries, the plays. Maybe we'll touch on Sean Payton going to Canton to induct, Drew Brees into the Hall of Fame, which I did watch earlier. It was really cool to watch, and amongst other things. So let's just get into it. Gage, I wanted to ask you. This week has been crazy with injuries, man. Like I am so shocked. Like I mean, we've been mostly lucky, I guess you could say, for the most part. A lot of the injuries to our big stars, I should say, have been thankfully very minor. But we did have one major injury that came out this week. I think it was yesterday, if I remember right. And the player's out for the season. But the first injury I want to talk about, of course, is Matt Henningsen. He went down yesterday with I believe it was a torn Achilles, right?
Yes.
Or was it an ACL?
Achilles.
Yeah, okay. But walk us through what exactly happened. I know you were at training camp yesterday. Did you see exactly what happened there?
So I actually was not there yesterday, so I did not see the play, but I do know that it happened during an individual drill, a pass rushing drill. It was a non-contact injury. Really unfortunate for Henningsen too, because he had the same injury literally 1 year ago yesterday during a joint practice with San Francisco. He blew out the other Achilles, and you see that before, guys will overcompensate on that other side after they've had a major injury, and then they'll have like an ACL or an Achilles or something along those lines afterward they've had one on the other side. So yeah, just really, really sucky set of circumstances there for Matt. He's on IR now and he is out for the season.
Yeah, initially, whenever I saw the post on Twitter, I can't remember. It was either you, I think, or it was Mike Kliss. I saw it from first on X, and I was just like, "Oh man, that sucks." I was like, "That." I was like, "Was that a year ago today that happened?" But then, I talked to some other people. I was like, "No, it was like a year and a day ago." And I was like, "Oh, well, that stinks." A lot of people were talking about it. I actually talked to a buddy of mine that said that he thinks this might possibly be the end of Matt Henningsen's NFL career. And I don't want to go that far. I mean, we've seen players, go through this a lot in the NFL and they would come back stronger. So I'm kind of hoping that's the same for Matt Henningsen. You know, um, it just really blows, man. Like I hate seeing that, and like I said, I was telling another buddy of mine at work the other day. I was like, man, we've been having these, injuries in camp. Thankfully, a lot of them been minor on some of our bigger stars like Waddle, Mims. You know, I'm like, I'm scared that big one's going to wind up happening soon. Like I was worried truly about that, and then Matt Henningsen went down, and I was just like, oh god, that sucks. I really like watching him. Whenever he does play, he's really, really good. I know he hasn't got a lot of snaps, but it stinks, man. We already lost Sean Franklin Myers. I mean, you got Awazarike, you got uh, DJ Jones, you got all these guys on the defensive line that are battling for that spot. So hopefully, speedy recovery for him. Hopefully, he comes back next year stronger and better, and hopefully, it doesn't happen again next year. Um, the next injury I want to talk about is Marvin Mims, which is one of my favorite players. It sounds like he was running down the field, and he pulled up, I believe, going down the field. We seen this happen last year with Dre Greenlaw, where I think he was covering Dobbins, or it was one of the running
Yeah,
backs
it
he was
was
covering out of the
like
backfield.
Dobbins or Harvey, one of them.
Yeah, and he was running, and then all of a sudden you see him pull up, and it made me a little nervous because Waddle kind of had the same thing, and I'm like, Dre Greenlaw missed half the season last year because I believe it was a hamstring, wasn't it?
It was
I
a
think
quad, I believe.
quad, yeah. And it kind of worries me about Mims. And I mean, we saw Jalen Waddle out there today. He was running around. He wasn't in pads, but he was running around. So that's good. But hopefully Marvin Mims, that's not that big of a deal. But what have you heard about the Marvin Mims situation?
Well, pretty much like you said, he was running downfield on a go route and just pulled up lame and was kind of grabbing the inside of his left leg. There was a report out there that had to get deleted. The Broncos didn't want it to go out, but it did go out. It said groin. So I'm going to run that for right now. And it sucks because those soft tissue injuries are like really temperamental. They don't heal well. They re-injure easily. They linger for a long time. And the Broncos aren't going to reveal the severity of Marvin Mims' injury, but I do think there is some cause for concern that this could linger. We don't know if it's a grade 1, a grade 2, but anytime you have a muscle strain in those soft tissue areas, it's a cause for concern long term, possibly.
And yeah, I agree with you, Gage, because that was my thing. Like the second I heard about Waddle pulling up, running down the field, and then I heard Marvin Mims, it made me instantly think back to Dre Greenlaw last year. Now I know Greenlaw, he had the I think the ACL in the Super Bowl a few years back, so it was a little bit more scary. But it just like you said, soft tissue injuries, they can linger for a long while, and also I feel bad for Marvin Mims, I really do, because he's in a contract year.
He's playing well in training
this
camp.
Is a beautiful. Yeah, and that's what sucks so bad. I really wanted to see what he could do this year, knowing he's playing for a contract. Same with Jalen Waddle. He was running down the field, pulled up, but he seems to be fine now. They said muscle tightness. That's what Sean said. But he was out there jogging around today at training camp, so that's really, really good. And then the other one I believe was Nick Benito. He got hurt earlier in the week, and he came back. He was limited yesterday, I believe. Thankfully, nothing too big with him. He should be back full go starting next week. I know Waddle's going to miss 5 to 6 days. I think he said that was like 2 days ago. So mid next week, Waddle should be back out there participating. But the biggest question I have for you tonight, Gage, is who's been your most standout player in training camp so far this year on offense or defense?
Oh God, there's so many. I don't even know where to start, man. Let's see. Let's go ahead and start off with somebody who has definitely gotten his fair share of controversy here in Denver, and that's Riley Moss. Moss has had a fantastic camp. Every single day he's making some sort of splash play out there, having a big PBU, having a near interception. He's come down with one so far. But Riley's been in position pretty much every single day to make some sort of big play out there. And that's exactly what we want to see. Now, sure, he will have an occasional play where he gets beat, and that happens sometimes. Every single corner in the NFL is going to get beat, especially when you play opposite the best corner in the game, and you're going to get targeted as many times that you do. But Riley has been fantastic, man. So that's one that immediately comes to mind. You think about Malcolm Roach. Oh my God. He has been absolutely incredible, having big time pressures, big sacks every single day. And they're not real sacks, of course. You can't actually touch the quarterback. But there was one play where Malcolm Roach did touch the quarterback. He got in there and literally upended Bo Nix. Like Bo went upwards in the air and fell on his back. It was a little scary at first, but Bo popped right up and got in Malcolm's face. And then play after that, Malcolm Roach comes in and has a big tackle for loss in the run game. So you can tell that Malcolm's playing with his hair on fire. Don't touch your own quarterback, please. That's not something we need, especially when he's coming off a season-ending ankle surgery. So Malcolm Roach comes to mind. Some of the rookies, Jonah Coleman's been really shining these past couple of practices when they've been ramping up the running periods. J.K. Dobbins is still your clear-cut RB1, but I'd say Jonah Coleman has shown more in these practices than R.J. Harvey has, especially as a pure runner of the football. Tyler Unyedem has been fantastic on the defensive side of the ball. He's having big pressures almost every single day. Oh, geez. Literally, there are so many players that have been standing out. Cage Casey on the offensive lines looked good. Frank Crumbs looked good. The backup quarterback battle is going to be a little interesting. I think we're going to probably touch on that a little bit later on, but I'll say this. Right now, nobody's really standing out in that department. Nobody's separating themselves. I mean, I know that I'm going to miss people here. Hakeem Butler has had a fantastic training camp. Zach Allen, you'd expect him to have a great training camp, and he has been. You know, Pat Surtain, all the usual suspects that you would expect to have good camps are having good camps. But I'm just trying to think about the guys who maybe aren't getting as much love, as much attention out there. Savion Jones is making plays out there. It's not every day for Savion, but every couple of days you'll see him flash out there. Michael Bandy, even Lucas Kroll's out there making some plays, showing some good stuff in the blocking game. The two rookie tight ends, Dallin Bentley, Justin Jolie. I mean, there's so many guys, dude. I don't think I've even touched on half of them.
Yeah. Before I get into what I was going to say, we got one here from Ernie Mays. He says, "Go Broncos country. Only think Broncos big, not 31 teams small." Hello, man. Thank you, Ernie, for being in here tonight. Really appreciate it. You've been here every night, man. Really do appreciate your support. Riley Moss, yeah, dude. Every single time I looked on X, it was just Riley Moss, and which is good. I'm happy for him. I want him to, go out there, and I want him to do the best he can. Because if you have Surtain and Moss and McMillan on the slide, dude, good luck throwing on this defense. That's all I can say. But my biggest question with that is, where does that leave Jahdae Barron? Like, I hear a little bit about him throughout camp, but I heard a few times he was getting beat a couple of times, but then I didn't really hear much after that. But if Moss, McMillan, and Surtain are your leading three guys, is there any potential that maybe – I know people have said it, I'm not saying it, but that Barron gets moved to safety. Like, he doesn't seem to be he's not going to be getting a whole lot of reps out there at corner. What are your thoughts to that, Gage?
So there was a report out there that Jahdae Barron was getting reps at safety. He did slide over there one time that I counted, maybe twice. I couldn't exactly tell from my position, but it's not enough to where even Sean Payton wanted that information to get out. He kind of shot it down at the podium. He's not playing safety, except for maybe the occasional snap or two. His main positions are dime backer when the Broncos get into 6 DB sets, which is actually very often. So he's going to see the field. He's going to be playing close to the box. He can blitz. He can defend the run. All kinds of different stuff you can do with Jahdae Barron. And he's playing some outside boundary corner as well. There aren't many snaps with the ones that he's doing that, but occasionally when PS2 or Riley needs a breather, that's when he'll slide in. I will say Barron has had a quiet camp. He hasn't made a lot of big plays out there. He has gotten beat a few times. He's still kind of learning how to play football, and you'd expect more out of your first round pick, but I've said this so many times. The plans for Jahdae Barron heading into year one were thwarted when Jaquan McMillan went out and had an all-pro season. They drafted Barron with the intentions of him being the starting nickel in year one, but Jaquan would not give up the job. And so they've been trying to find creative ways to use him, and you can still use him in that dime role and get a lot of value out of him, but maybe not as much as you would hope out of a first-round pick. So it seems right now that's going to be his role moving forward.
Yeah, I noticed a lot last year. Like, I liked him at that, kind of like that sub linebacker, hybrid type of player, nickel, dime, corner, sub linebacker type of situation. Because he is really good. Like, he reminds me of a lot of like McMillan blitzing off the edge there, getting into the box, covering over the middle. You see him a lot on like tight ends and stuff, but they're so deep at the corner position. And, Riley Moss is in the contract year. McMillan's trying to play for a long-term contract. It's just really hard. You got all these, you only got a certain amount of snaps, and you got all these guys you want to get out there, and Barron going into his second year, you kind of want him to either take one of those roles over at nickel corner or outside corner, because I don't think they're going to be able to pay both. They're not, they got plenty of guys coming up this year that they got to pay in this coming up all season. One of which I think could be Bo Nix, depending on how the season goes, because I'm pretty sure he's eligible for an extension after this year.
Going into year
if
4.
He does, yeah. So if he does well, or they win the Super Bowl, I would want to pay Bo Nix sooner rather than later. Because the longer you wait, the more expensive he's going to get. So they got a lot of decisions to make. But my biggest thing is, the biggest player, you did miss one, and it was the guy. I think I said this earlier. I could be crazy. You might say I'm crazy, Gage. But I know after this year, they could possibly move on from if they wanted to. I'm not saying they're going to.
I know who you're talking about.
But Pat Bryant has been a standout candidate at training camp. Every single time I go on X or I'm watching videos, especially some of yours, Gage, I just constantly see nothing but Pat Bryant on there. He's just balling at training camp. And I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, Gage, or if I'm crazy here. Do you think it's possible that he could possibly take Sutton's job by the end of the season?
Not by the end of this season, but next year? Oh, yeah, absolutely. He could definitely slide into that X receiver role. Right now, he's playing backup X, so he's Sutton's direct backup, and he's playing big slot with the starters. So that's the role you're going to see him in this year, and he is balling out. I cannot believe I didn't mention him originally, dude. Every single day, multiple plays, he's having big catches. He's going up and mossing dudes. He's having big runs after the catch. He is torching guys out there, and he is coming through in the clutch every single day, man. Pat Bryant has been phenomenal and is going to be very prominently featured in the offense this year. He's probably going to be the third leading player in terms of targets. He is incredible, man.
Yeah, dude, I think I'm on my way to go buy a new, Pat Bryant jersey this year. I really do, because like I think he's gonna be my new favorite player out there. But with that said, I did skip over one injury that I wanted to talk about. That I can't believe I flaked on this. Luke Wattenberg. Yes. He got hurt on Monday, and he still hasn't participated. You know, he's been out there walking around, but he hasn't been in pads or participating in practice. Is that anything Bronco country should be afraid of, Gage, or do you think it's just, they're being cautious with it?
We don't know. The Broncos haven't given much information on Wattenberg's injury. Peyton's always going to go on the podium and say that he's going to be fine, but he said that about Dre Greenlaw, and Dre Greenlaw missed half the season. Wattenberg has been out there walking around doing work on the side field, but it's apparent that he is dealing with some kind of upper body injury. He suffered a shoulder injury in the Jaguars game, and that kept him out all the way until the AFC Championship game, and he came back and didn't really look like himself in that game. So we don't know if this is a re-aggravation of that previous injury or if this is a new injury altogether. This is the time of year where teams don't have to put out an injury report. They don't have to answer questions about injuries. They can literally say nothing if they want to, and the league won't punish them for it. So for competitive reasons, the Broncos aren't going to say anything about this Wattenberg injury. There aren't any indications right now that it's a long-term injury, but the fact is there's a lot of grayness here. We just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I am a little concerned with this, but knowing that we got Alex Forsyth as the backup, he's a solid center, I believe. Mm-hmm. Like, he can go out there and handle his own. If, God forbid, Wattenberg's not ready to go to start the season, which I believe he will be, I think he'll be ready to go for week 1. And the other good thing about, Forsyth is that he's got chemistry prior to the Broncos with Bo Nix at Oregon. So at least you got that. You ain't got to worry about that too much. But I don't think that's going to be a issue come week 1. I think Wattenberg's going to be out there. And it's like you said, it's concerning. Like, you got hurt on Monday. You're not really telling us nothing. In Broncos country, I know a lot of people I've talked to, they're like, what's going on with Wattenberg? What's going on with Wattenberg? I'm like, just chill, dude. He's out there. He's stretching. They're probably just being cautious with him, just the same with Jalen Wild and Marvin Mims. Like, they don't want to have these guys go out there, force them, really practice hard, and then wind up hurting themselves more. So I'm not going to freak out. Like, unless it's like a major injury or if come week 1, these guys ain't ready, then that's when I'll start worrying. But until then, I'm not really concerned too much with that. Next up, I wanted to talk about the backup quarterback room. You mentioned it earlier, Gage. Based on the stuff I've been hearing, especially today, I heard Jarrett Stidham didn't really have a great day out there today. He kind of missed a couple of throws, but Sam Ehlinger looks like he's been really, I know you said it's kind of close, but I've been hearing that he's kind of been playing a little bit better than Stidham. Is there any, thought in your mind that it could possibly be, Ehlinger being our backup going into the season, or could it still be Stidham?
I will say Ehlinger's ahead of Stidham. There's no doubt about that. but I'm still seeing a lot of inconsistency with Ellinger as well. Luka Evans was the guy who I saw initially reporting Ellinger was making good plays out there today, but then he also reported at the end that it was an up and down day for him. So he also had some kind of negative plays out there. And I heard the same thing from the little birdie that I had out at training camp today, that it was some good and some bad from Ellinger. So you're seeing a lot more splash plays with him. He's a lot more willing to take chances downfield than Stiddy is. Stiddy is hesitant to throw the ball. He crumbles under pressure. We've seen that in every game that he's played for the Broncos. His worst plays come under pressure. He's holding the ball too long. He'll have the occasional deep completion downfield, but a lot of streakiness with Stidham. And with Ellinger, it's just kind of been, a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. And I'm actually going to make a video probably later tonight talking about if the Broncos need to outsource a backup quarterback, because I don't think you can trust either one of them to go out there and win a game for you if Bo Nix gets hurt. Even if he just gets knocked out for a game or two with a concussion or something like that, I don't think that Jarrett Stidham or Sam Ellinger would be viable options at this point in time. Ellinger's definitely the clear favorite right now, but yeah, it's just been so up and down with both of those guys, and with Stiddy more down than up.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a bummer that you said that. I was kind of hoping one of these guys would take the mantle and take that backup quarterback spot, but yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. Then possibly maybe going out and having to get somebody from outside to come in to be the backup. Hopefully, one of these guys really shine in training, or I'm sorry, preseason, because we got our first preseason game next Friday, which I'm excited.
That's what I was going to say.
And hopefully,
that's when we're going to hopefully see some separation, because right now there is none.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm hoping for too, man. I'm so ready for football that I watched the Hall of Fame game and I almost fell asleep. But yeah, hopefully we get someone goes out in front here in the preseason, because if we can not have to go out and sign somebody off the street and just bring one of these guys in, I'd rather do that. Keep one of these guys. I'd rather do that. But with that said, man, Bo Nix has looked really good out there. Every report I hear, Bo Nix is just dropping dimes out there. He's connecting with Pat Bryant. He's connecting with Ingram, Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton. A few days Jalen Waddle was out there before he got hurt. He was really hitting him. I just have to ask you this, Gage, because I'm really curious to see what your thought is on this. What would a successful season look like for Bo Nix this year, coming off of last year's season?
It's hard because I don't like projecting stats. There's so much wonky stuff that can go into it. But if you could see him go out there and put together a Pro Bowl caliber season, whatever that is on paper, I think that's a successful year. If he leads the team to double-digit wins and back to the playoffs again, and we win at least one or two playoff games, I'd call that a successful year. But the overall goal for the team is win a Super Bowl this year. And I don't think the team will feel like it was a successful season. And I don't think Bo will personally feel like it's a successful season unless they do that, unless they close the deal out and win the Super Bowl this year.
No, I completely agree. I think that if there's one thing on Bo's mind this year, it's to win a Super Bowl, because I feel like, just like the majority of Broncos country, I think Bo Nix feels the same, that he were healthy for that Patriots game. They make the Super Bowl. And I've said it a million times over in all these videos, is that if the Broncos make the Super Bowl, I think we beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks were good, don't get me wrong. But, come on. The Patriots defense versus the Broncos defense, I don't think Sam Darnold had it too bad in the Super Bowl. If he would have faced the Broncos defense, the second best defense in the league last year, he would have been seeing ghosts again, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Nick McNeil and Jonathan Cooper would have terrorized that poor guy. But that's just my thought. But Bo Nix, man, I'm so happy to see that it looks like he's taking the next step, because it seems like a lot of quarterbacks nowadays, Bo Nix has had a solid good 2 years. His rookie year, his sophomore year, really good years. But year 3, we always hear about it, Gage. That's when quarterbacks really take that next step, is in year 3. That's when they really, truly, have their breakout season. Do you think that's possible for Bo Nix, or do you think that season was last year he had his breakout year?
You definitely want to see more from Bo, as good as last year was, especially those final few games. From week 11 on, Bo was a surgeon out there. but there were still some bouts of inaccuracy last season, some bad footwork, stuff that just needs to be cleaned up. And it sucks because he lost this offseason. This was the offseason where I was hoping he'd clean that stuff up. He'd work on his footwork, work on his lower body mechanics, improve that accuracy. But instead, he had to dedicate that time to rehabbing those ankle surgeries. So I'm hoping that we can see that this year, but it might not be until next year that we see more growth in that development in that areas because again, he lost this offseason.
Yeah, it was a bummer. Like I do agree. Like watching his footwork, like it did look a little sketchy last year. I mean, he made it work with his arm strength and his upper body strength. Like he made it work, but you would like to see him. And honestly, personally, to me, I don't. Maybe I'm alone in this, Gage, but after that ankle surgery, I really don't want to like. I'm not saying at all run, but I don't. I want to see him win more from the pocket.
Sure.
I like. I'm not saying I like just statue quarterbacks. Like if you need to run, run. But I like the old type of just pocket presence quarterback, like an old guy that wins from the pocket type of deal. That's what I like, and because I feel like they're going to be more safer in there doing that. But yeah, hopefully he cleans that up during this training camp and preseason. But with all that said, the biggest question I wanted to talk to you about tonight, Gage, was I know it's still early, but what do you think this Broncos overall team could do? Like, do you think they lose more games than last year? Do you think they stay at about 14? Because a lot of people are thinking that they're going to go 14-3 again this year. I think 14. Yeah. I've actually seen a few people say they're going to go 15-2. Now, a lot of people got them in that 12 to 13 win range. Personally, I think they're going to win the division again. I don't trust KC. I don't trust Los Angeles, and Raiders I think are going to be better, but they're still not there yet. But if you had to take a pick right now, do you think the Broncos win the division? If so, how many games do you think they win this year?
I definitely think that they are the favorite to win the division. With the Chargers, it's kind of we'll believe it when we see it, right? They haven't done it yet. It's the what-if team every single year. If Justin Herbert's offensive line was healthy, if Justin Herbert had good receivers, we hear this crap every single year, and they still cannot get it done. So, yeah, I think that Denver is definitely the favorite. Kansas City, their team overall is suspect to me. I feel like the offensive line still has problems. The defense is young. It's going to take some time for them to gel. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to play week 1. I'm very confident in that. But I think it's going to be a good 4 or 5 weeks before he looks like Patrick Mahomes again. And even before the injury, he was really a check down Charlie, captain check down kind of guy for really the last couple of years. So will we see this offense be explosive again? I don't know. The receiving core has been injured throughout training camp. I think it's a mess right now in Kansas City. And like you said with the Raiders, they should be better, but they're nowhere near a playoff contender right now. If they win, 5 or 6 games, that's a successful season for the Raiders, especially if Fernando Mendoza looks good in the games that he does start this year. But if Denver goes out there and they win, let's say 12 games, that should be good enough for them to win this division. They do have a tougher schedule this year. There's no doubt about that. They're facing some of the Super Bowl favorites from the NFC, the Rams, the Seahawks. They've got the Bills to deal with, the Patriots. So this is not going to be an easy schedule for the Denver Broncos this year. But if they're as good as we think they are, they should be able to win these games. They should be able to not be in these one-score scenarios that they were for a lot of games last year. Now, some of these one-score games were one-score games on paper, but the Raiders, for example, kicked a field goal to make it a one-score game as time expired off the clock. We were never worried about the Broncos losing to the Titans week 1 last season, even though that was a one-score game. So some of these one-score games weren't really, tight games on paper, but there were some, like Washington, for example. Denver should have gone in there and dominated, and that game was way too close. We almost lost that game. We were a non-batted pass away from losing that game. So Denver's got to be better in these close game situations. And at the end of the day, they got to find a way to not be in those situations every single game.
No, I agree. You're right. A lot of those games, one score, like the Raiders, like, oh my God, they kicked the field goal as time expired. They were down by, I think, like 10 plus points or something like that in that game. But then, like you said, you had the Commanders game. Even I would say the Chargers game at the end of the year, the last game of the season, like you literally were like, they weren't even playing their starters, I don't think, in that game. They were resting their starters, and you still only won by one score. You didn't even have an offensive touchdown in that game. Like,
yeah,
they really – go ahead, Gage.
With that game, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. With that game, it was, Jaquan McMillan had an early pick six. Trey Lance wasn't doing anything at quarterback. I think they just kind of took their foot off the gas in that game, knowing they were going to win. But I still see your point there. Like, they can't be in those games.
No, and that's what kind of scared me a little bit because, yeah, it was against the backups, like you said. They took their foot off the gas. But, dude, you're playing for the 1 seed in that game. Like, you lose that game. Like, if you face New England in the playoffs like we did, you're going to New England in that game. So I don't want them to do that. I want them to put their foots on the team's throat and just dominate them like you need to. Your starters are out there against their backups. You need to dominate. Even like the Chiefs, that second game on Christmas Day last year, it's like you're playing a third-string quarterback. And I can't remember. I know that was a one-score game in that game. I can't remember the exact final score, but I know it was one score. I'm like, granted, the Chiefs had most of their starters out there. Patrick Mahomes wasn't in there. They had their third string in there. It's like, dude, come on. You guys got to be able to beat these teams. That team literally had nothing to play for other than just trying to beat us. That was it. Like, you should have destroyed the Chiefs. I'm sorry. I don't care if it was in Kansas City. Like, you should have beat the crap out of them. They were starting a third-string quarterback. And there's one play popping in my mind right now in that game where the third-string quarterback, what's his name, Owendokin or whatever, he's running out to the left, drops the ball, had time to pick it up and throw down the field like 10 yards for a completion. I'm like, what the heck is that? So, yeah, I agree. They really need to work on these one-score games. I know a lot of games in the NFL are going to be one-score. Like, if it's against, like, a Bills team or, a Patriots team or Seattle or Rams, okay, I understand that. One score, fine. But when you're playing backup quarterbacks or backups in general or a Washington team that's just decimated by injuries, like, come on. You should win by more than one score, at least 10 points. So, but with that said, the final question I kind of wanted to ask you was about trades. Now, the Broncos in the cornerback room, the receiver room, they have a lot of depth there. There's been a lot of speculation. Could there possibly be somebody traded? And I just want to get your take, Gage. Who do you think, receiver, corner, don't matter what position, who do you think is the most likely trade candidate if there is someone to be traded?
I don't think anybody in the cornerback room. I think that's pretty safe right now. Before all the wide receiver injuries, I would have said Troy Franklin because he's had a pretty quiet camp. He's made a couple of plays these last couple of days, but that's been since Jalen Waddle's been out and Franklin's been filling his role as the Z with the starters. So maybe you don't make a move there now, but if the receiver room gets healthy again and it goes back to how it was and Franklin just wasn't making a whole lot of plays out there, I would say him because you could probably net a pretty decent return for him. You could probably get similar to what you got for Devon Vele last year, somewhere around a 4th-round pick. And Franklin, barring any injuries, is not going to be heavily involved in this offense. And I will say we have not seen growth from Franklin in the one area where we needed to see it, his hands. He's still dropping balls out there. So I don't know, man. I think it's time for the Denver Broncos to maybe move in a different direction there and see what they can get in return for Franklin. I don't think that Franklin being on this roster is going to help the Broncos win a Super Bowl more than Franklin not being on this roster is.
Okay, yeah, that was the biggest talking point this offseason was, Franklin possibly being on the trade block. They got Waddle, they got Sutton. They're probably going to see more out of Pat Bryant. They still got Marvin Mims, who's in the contract year. Another big position, like I've been seeing a lot from a big, Mr. Irrelevant, Red Murdoch. I've been seeing he's been making a lot of plays out there in training camp, especially punching the ball out a lot. Do you think it's any possibility he could take either Stranad or Singleton's job this year?
Not sure if I'm ready to go that far this year, but much like Pat Bryant, next year, oh yeah, he is flying around, making plays every single day, having forced fumbles, having pass breakups, having some big tackles in the run game, having some pressures. Red Murdoch has definitely stood out. I loved the draft pick. I literally jumped for joy when they made that pick. The fact that he was even there at the end of the 7th round is crazy to me, but I think at this point, Singleton and Cernod are still your entrenched starters, but once Singleton's gone, most likely next season, oh yeah.
I'm not going to argue with that, but I know I'm really wishing here and really hoping for this, but I love Singleton. To me, after that Buccaneers game in Bo Nix's rookie year where he tore his ACL and still played the entire game, he's a Broncos legend to me. Like, no one can ever change my mind on that. But he is, I think, 31 or 32 now. He's getting up there in age. And I know Stranad, I think he's 30. He's going to be 31 during the season this year at some point. But it would just be really good for me if Red Murdoch takes a starting job this year. Like, that's my goal. Like, I love Stranad, I love Singleton, but if Red Murdoch, young rookie guy, last pick in the draft, he ain't making a whole lot. If he could take somebody's job, I'm all for it. Any rookie on this roster or young guy on a rookie contract could take anybody's job, I'm happy, because then you got this long-term solution, or I guess you could say long-term solution at that position, whatever it is, on a rookie deal for a couple of years. Because, like I said, the Bo Nix has a really good year. The Broncos make the playoffs or win a Super Bowl. Bo Nix, I believe, is going to get paid next offseason. Like, I think that's their main priority right now. Like, they're thinking, hey, Bo Nix is going to be eligible for an extension. If he plays well again this year, let's lock him down. Let's just get that done, get it out of the way, and we ain't got to worry about it. So I kind of hope some of these guys, like a Pat Bryant, I hope like a Red Murdoch, even Jahdae Barron. Like, I hate to say it, I love Riley Moss, I love McMillan, I love all these guys that are starting for us. But if one of these young guys can take their job, I'm all for it. That way the Broncos can save some money.
Sure.
But I also heard that Harvey, I know you talked about Coleman a little bit. He's been making plays out there. I heard Harvey's been really making plays out there on the wheel routes out of the backfield. Yes. I heard he's been making some big plays down the field in the catching department. Any thoughts on that, Gage? Because I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
I definitely agree with that assessment. We've seen that he has made some big plays on wheel routes, and we knew that. RJ Harvey's always been a really good receiving back, but his vision as an actual runner of the football, that's been the big bugaboo for him. And unfortunately, we haven't seen much growth in that department in training camp. Hopefully we see some in the preseason. That's a little bit more of an indication of how he's going to look in the regular season. But right now, I think that RJ Harvey's role on this offense is going to be pigeonholed to mostly third down, because he can pass protect and he can catch out of the backfield. But right now, I don't think that the Broncos are going to use him a whole lot as an actual carrier of the football, because J.K. Dobbins has looked good in that area, as has Jonah Coleman.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I did see your roster, your prediction for roster a couple of weeks ago. I did watch that video. I think you said you have the Broncos carrying 4 running backs, I believe. I think
3.
You said, or 3. Okay. Because I know you didn't have the tight end, or you didn't have the fullback on the active roster. You had him on the practice squad, Adam Prentice. But if they carry 3, it's going to be those 3. It's going to be Dobbins, of course, RJ Harvey and Jonah Coleman, which puts McLaughlin on the outskirts looking in. I kind of hate – I don't really like that, because I like McLaughlin. I know he's not the greatest running back, but I just love his speed, and I like what he could do out of the backfield too, just like Harvey. But he can't really pass block that good as Harvey does. But the other big position I noticed was, okay, we know Ben Powers restructured his deal. He's going to stay in Denver this year. I know over the last couple of days, I don't think he's been out there practicing, so it's been Palczewski taking the reps, I believe. Do you think, now I'm not saying it's going to happen, but do you think Palczewski could take over Ben Powers' job at some point during the season?
Again, probably not this year, but next year, definitely. I've been saying that a lot, but that's what I do feel like. Powers has been rotating in with Palcho, but it's not really competition thing. It's more a injury management thing with Powers. So we have seen him out there. He's been there these past couple practices, just been kind of limited in his reps. We're also seeing them rotate Frank Crum a little bit more with Garrett Bowles at left tackle just to do some load management stuff. Powers is coming off of a pretty serious injury last year. So I think that's kind of why they're doing that. But no, there appears to be no competition for any starting spots on the offensive line. It's going to be the same 5 starters as last season. But if there is an injury there, Frank Crum, Alex Palczewski, those are the first 2 guys that you're going to turn to. And then at center, they're already turning to Alex Forsyth. But if Wattenberg were to be down for any period in the regular season, that's who would be starting there. But right now, Ben Powers is your starting left guard this season.
I kind of figured the same thing. I don't think they're going to want to keep that continuity on the offensive line, with Bowles, Powers, Wattenberg, Miners, and Mike McGlinchey. I don't know why I was blanking on his name. But another big thing I wanted to ask you was the defensive line. Like John, JFM's gone. There's been a lot of rotating, there at the defensive line. Who's going to take over? Who would you like to see, and who do you think is going to wind up taking over that hole left by John Franklin Myers on this defensive line? Because it seems like a lot of these young guys, they're out there really playing great. Like I've been hearing Wazarike, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, all these guys are just constantly getting in the backfield. But who do you think would take over that role?
I think for the John Franklin Myers role, it's going to be Malcolm Roach. He is really shined in training camp. Like I said earlier, multiple pressures every single day, big sacks, big tackles for loss in the run game. We had, who was it? It was DJ Jones who got on the podium and said that Roach is going to run with the job. DJ Jones is your starting nose tackle, and then you've got Roach, who's going to be the other defensive end alongside Zach Allen, and then you're going to have Wazarike rotate in quite a bit. He's working heavily with the ones. Tyler Onyedam's going to have a role. He's carved that out during training camp. This defensive line rotation is going to be very fun to watch, but the main guy who seems to be emerging right now is Malcolm Roach.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was kind of hoping it'd be a way. God, I can't say his name for some reason. The rookie guy, Tyler. I can't say his last name. I don't know why, but I was kind of hoping he would take that over. I was really looking forward to him being that guy. But I mean, if he needs like another year to develop, I'm fine with that. I mean, he is a rookie after all. But another big thing I saw at training camp today, since Will Lutz was absent, because he went to Canton with Sean Payton today, was I heard Brandon Jones was out there kicking some field goals and looking pretty good doing it. It sounds like we found our backup kicker if we ever need him. But what were your thoughts on that, Gage?
Yeah, that was pretty fun, man. I will say one guy who you do not want kicking field goals is Malcolm Roach. The other day, he went out there and he put the ball on the tee from about 35 yards out and kicked it 20 yards short right into the stands. Oh, it was hilarious. The whole crowd cracked up, man. But no, he was fired up. Oh, and did I mention he got put on his ass at the same time? He fell right on his tush.
No, I didn't hear about that. I heard about him kicking, but I didn't hear him put his ass. Oh, God,
he did. Slipped and fell, man. But no, that was one of the more beautiful moments of training camp right there. Brandon Jones, though, actually might have some potential as a backup kicker. Hopefully we don't have to experience any of that. Will Lutz is the reliable kicker, even though he had a couple misses in the AFC Championship game. He's been healthy for most of his career, but if he does go down, it seems Brandon Jones would be that guy to step in.
That's good. At least we know we got a backup kicker on the roster now that can also play safety. But with all that said, I wanted to get your thoughts on 2 more things, Gage, and we can get out of here for tonight. The first thing is what did you think about Sean Payton's speech today about Drew Brees at the Hall of Fame, induction ceremony? What were your thoughts on that?
Call me terrible. I haven't seen it yet. I've been covering practice all day, had to do the dishes afterwards, so I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. But I will sit back and watch that later today. I know that it was pretty emotional. I know that some tears were flowing out there, so I can't wait to go and watch it.
Oh yeah, Sean Payton, like he doesn't really cry a lot, and he was really trying hard to hide it. But I was watching it today. He was balling. Um, but it was just such a wonderful moment. Congratulations to Drew Brees. I'm glad he made it to Canton. And the last thing I wanted to touch on, it doesn't really have anything to do with the Broncos, but I just wanted to see, did you watch the Hall of Fame game
Oh yeah.
Thursday night? And what are your thoughts on the two backup quarterbacks that finished out that game, and Carson Beck and the guy from the Panthers? I forgot his last name.
Haynes
He
King.
was an undrafted rookie. But what do you think of those two quarterbacks? And do you think Carson Beck has a chance to be the starter for Arizona this year?
I mean, going into the offseason, scouting him, I was not high on Carson Beck at all. I thought that he looked pretty decent out there, making some good throws, some good decisions. Of course, going up against very vanilla defensive looks, not seeing anything exotic. The offense he was running was very rudimentary and basic, but he did look good. He was making some good plays out there. And then Haynes King was freaking electric at the end, man. Won the game on that run. We knew that Haynes King had that clutch factor to him. We saw it in college. I'll never forget watching him whoop up on the Buffs in his last year in college. What? Laramie Tunsil tore his tricep? Oh no.
I feel so bad for the Commanders.
Dude. Oh, that's not good, man. That's not good at all. Oh, that's messed up. He's one of the best left tackles in the game, man.
Keep Jake Daniels out for the year. I wouldn't risk it.
Oh, God, man. That's brutal. That is absolutely brutal. But where were we?
Talking about Haynes King, the quarterback with the Panthers.
Oh, yeah, dude. That was electric, man. We knew that he had that clutch factor in him. I saw him beat up on the Buffs in his last year in college. So I was always a fan of his, and yeah, definitely seeing him play like that in the NFL was pretty awesome. But I was impressed with the Hall of Fame game overall. I was impressed with both of those quarterbacks. One of the more electric preseason games in recent memory, and it was a fun way to start the year off.
Yeah, it was. That was probably the best Hall of Fame game I've ever watched in my life. I've watched a lot, but that was probably the best one. A really high-scoring game, 33-30. Geez. I heard a lot of people compare Haynes King as the Panthers' next, Cam Newton. I heard that distinction at some point in the last couple of days. I was like, I wouldn't go that far. He's an undrafted rookie. Cam Newton was the number 1 overall pick. I understand Panther fans are excited, but you still got Bryce Young. And then on the other side, I don't know if you watched the actually, televised, part of the Hall of Fame game, but one of the commentators compared Carson Beck to Bo Nix.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some similarities. But Bo's a better athlete. Bo has a stronger arm. All around, Bo is a much better quarterback than Carson Beck is.
Agree. But it was just funny because it didn't bother me that much. I'm like, yeah, whatever. They're going to compare whoever they want to whoever they want. But I seen a lot of Bronco fans like, what? What'd you just It kind of gave me a chuckle. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm wrong, I think it might have been Chris Collinsworth that said that.
It was.
There was a video someone showed of him comparing one of I can't remember what quarterback it was, but they were comparing, like, man, Mahomes, he almost said it. He's like, man, could you imagine, like, oh, he looked like so and so, and people were freaking. I think it was Carson Beck making like a sidearm throw, and he kind of almost compared him to Patrick Mahomes, and then he caught himself, and people were like, we know what you're about to say there, bro. So
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I'm so happy football's back, Gage. You got the Hall of Fame game. You get the Broncos' first preseason game on Friday. You get preseason football on Thursday. So we got football from here until February now. So, God, it's been a long 6 months, but I'm so excited. Gage, any final thoughts before we get out of here tonight, man?
Football's back, and it's good to be home, man.
Yes, it is. I am so excited, man. I'm going to be sitting around my couch eating tacos on Friday night, watching the Broncos beat up on the Falcons. Preseason or not, I don't care. So, but that's it for us tonight, guys. If you guys could please like, comment, subscribe on this video. Also hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. Gage, really appreciate you filling in for Muhammad tonight, man. It's been a wonder. It's been fun. You were very knowledgeable, and, man, I love having you on the show. So maybe we'll do it again sometime, hopefully. But that's it for us tonight, guys. We will see you next week. Peace.